Okay.
You ready to get started?
Yes.
Hi everybody, it's so nice to see you all, and I wish you could all be here with us. We're making the video all together finally. Cole's behind the camera, the doggies are sniffing around, doing their thing. I'm in front of the Criterion side of our entire collection. Cole made a video the other day where he took a snapshot kind of everything, so we're going to go into a little bit more depth to show you the cool stuff that we have, and I want to see everybody else's shelves too. I know you feel the same, Cole.
I do. We really wanted to do this for all of our friends who are physical media collectors and big movie fans, because a lot of them, especially after seeing that glimpse of our collection the other day, we're talking about how comforting it is to get to look through people's collections and how much fun they have, how relaxing it is. It makes them feel better. So we're doing a virtual tour that's a little more in depth than what I did the other day. So yeah. We're going to start with the CDs. They're actually CDs in the library.
These are all yours. None of these are mine. Mine are all in slip cases. What are those called?
CD wallets?
Yes, wallets.
Yeah, the majority of these, I don't know, I haven't bought maybe but 24 CDs in the last couple of years. I used to work at Waterloo Records back in 2002 to 2007. And at that point, the CD collection was 10 times or so what this is. It used to take up 2 units the size of the DVD units. Hi Gibson, what are you doing down there?
Everybody's trying to sniff down. Give them kisses.
But since then, I've cut the CDs way down and we concentrate more on DVDs. So this is the Criterion corner, like Ericca was saying. We have some of the special editions up above, the Bergman, the Zatoichi, the Kurosawa 100 set, Godzilla. There's a space right here for the Olympic set that we hope to get eventually. And then there's just the regular A to Z beyond that. And I'm just going to go through and scan the shelves because I know everybody enjoys seeing what's on them. And while we're doing this, we can answer a couple of questions.
Should we start with Daisuke's first?
At least one of them, because Daisuke asks a few. And he did ask, for example, what the most valuable entry in our collection is. And I would say just price tag wise, it's that Akira Kurosawa set right there. We'll get around to a couple of other different interpretations of that question as we go further into the collection.
And one of his questions was, how do we arrange the collection? So this is showing you first, we have the Criterion separated in what we consider the beginning of the collection.
And we arrange these alphabetically by title or by director's last name in the case of various box sets or compilations. Same goes for the Eclipse sets. The Eclipse sets are mixed in. You see one right there by Robert Downey Sr. that are just alphabetical by the title of the collection or the last name of the director in question. But we have, I would say, all told, I just did a recent update to enter a couple of new items. And there are 6,400 titles in the entire collection, give or take. And out of that, about 850 or so are Criterion titles.
And how many do you have left to go?
To be complete, approximately 150, maybe a little bit more, 170, I would say at most. We do have a great majority of them, though. And I started collecting these a long time ago. I've been working on this collection for 20 years, give or take.
Do you remember the first Criterion title that you bought?
I do. It was The Testament of Dr. Mabuse.
Oh.
One of my all-time favorites. And one of the very first episodes we did of the show.
Was that just happen happenstance, or were you setting out to start the collection with that title?
I was not setting out specifically to start the collection with that title in mind. I was at a Barnes & Noble sale, one of the very first Barnes & Noble sales I went to, and it was the cover that caught my eye the most. I think I bought M as well in that same shopping trip. But the very first one I picked up and the very first one I watched was The Testament of Dr. Mabuse. Still one of my absolute favorites. Do you remember the first one that you encountered?
I'm pretty sure it was The Grand Illusion.
That's a good one to start with.
And
Number one.
I think it was on Laserdisc because it was in school. They showed it to us in school. And I didn't know at that time that it was Criterion. I didn't know of such a thing.
Right. You could have possibly encountered some prior to that, say Monty Python and the Holy Grail or something like that you might not have known at the time, because I think I might have done the same thing. But the very first thing that I set out to get for myself was The Testament of Dr. Mabuse. Hi, Gibson. Okay, this is almost all. We're coming to the end of the Criterion set. And I guess we could answer other questions, because we're coming to, I think, one of them that our friend Jane asked about Gibson's favorite title in the collection. And that'll be on the very next shelf. That is right down here. That's Sam Fuller's White Dog, because Gibson is a lunatic just like that.
He also loves Uncle Boonme, though. You do have to say
That's
that, even
true.
though that's not over here, because he was so enthralled by it.
There are your podcast headphones. We should also mention in the space right in front of these shelves, this is where we do our podcasting too. We usually have a table right in this space where I'm sitting. And since we're looking at them, we have these cool magic lantern pins. That beam glows in the dark. So if you're interested in a magic lantern enamel pin, let me know and we can get you one of those. Let's move around. Look at that boy.
So we're coming to the rest of the collection in alphabetical order by title.
Yes, everything else is over here. We don't separate labels on this side. So for instance, Mondo Macabro, Arrow, Film Movement, who else? What am I leaving out?
Severin,
Vinegar Syndrome. All of that stuff is here together, mixed in alphabetically by title. And the alphabetical thing, that's kind of a holdover from working at Waterloo Records as well, because it just seems to make sense to me that if you are trying to go through 6,400 given titles, that it might be hard to remember, say if you're separating by genre and you have those movies that are right on the line of one or another. But if you know the name of them in this case, for instance, you who don't catalog them, I do all the cataloging. If you were to come look for one, it would be really difficult probably to sift through all of them and try to figure out, is it this genre, is it that genre? So now, you know, if you know the name, you can go right to it.
So you're not going to pull a high fidelity style trick and pick some super obscure method that only you know.
Right, they're not arranged autobiographically.
They're not arranged by cinematographer?
Or director or anything like that. No, they're just all by title.
Here, Gil. Come here. Oh, you're so silly.
Later, we're going to get into these one shelf at a time, so I won't linger too long on any one shelf. But the big plan is, in the future, we're each going to take a shot at picking a handful of favorites from any given shelf, and we'll just pull a couple and talk about them kind of Criterion Closet style. These above are the ones that don't actually fit on the shelf upright because the packaging is too strange or too long or not quite the dimensions of the shelves. And there's one VHS there of White Comanche with William Shatner.
Your autobiography.
Exactly. And the other thing that we are doing, I guess I'm going to back up a step. Our friend Bruce asked us a question about whether or not we designed and built these, which unfortunately, no, I didn't do that. They are incredibly well made, and we get them from a place in Austin called the Bookcase Store.
And if you see differences in the cases themselves, it's because the wood ages, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and the Criterion shelf, the first one, is taller than the others because I got it before he had completely locked down his template as far as what the dimensions were. But no, we didn't build these. We buy them. We have 10 in the room, an 11th empty one in the garage waiting to be deployed as soon as we run out of space here.
Which we're kind of knocking on the door of.
Yes, sort of. What I've decided to start doing is that I'm going to pull larger sets out to make room sometimes for new arrivals. So you'll see some of those across the top where I just picked out a set that was fairly sizable to make room because I needed to get 5 or 6 new pieces onto one particular shelf and didn't want to have to shift the whole thing. Our friend Michael, an associated question to that, was asking if we have these anchored to the wall, and no, we do not. But it's not as much as a safety hazard as you might think, because they're incredibly well made, and it might be a little deceptive. So we can look at the side of one. They're actually much deeper and well balanced than it seems like.
They are.
This section right here is basically where the DVD sits, and then there's this much behind, and they have a false back. So they're well balanced and they're not prone to fall over. In fact, when I moved, we wrapped plastic wrap around them, didn't take anything off the shelf, and just put them on a dolly and wheeled them around, which was a much easier process than boxing up thousands of DVDs.
Also, these walls, we can barely fit a single nail to hang a picture up in, so I don't think I would even trust anchors. But that's just me.
While we're standing in this section, should we go back to Dice K's question about most valuable pieces?
Absolutely, because the first one is up on top of this unit, and that is the Golden Girls complete special edition all seasons that you got me, and I wept.
It is a bootleg too, by the way.
Yeah, it's completely illegal. It's got everything in it though, so who cares?
A little further down the line, we'll probably get to this single item that is the highest dollar value, let's say.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's one that you enjoy too. I don't know if you know exactly what the cost of the thing is.
No.
So we'll get down there in just a little bit. There's a nice big Franco set. Who else had questions? Do you remember?
Let's see. We answered James. We answered all of Dice Case or 2 of Dice Case?
Dice K asked how we arranged them, what the most valuable pieces are. Oh, and he asked if we've seen them all.
Oh, right. Which is an incredibly important question. I certainly have not.
I have seen 75 to 80% of what's on the shelves.
If I had to guess, I would say probably 50% for me.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, move, Gibbo.
I don't know. Do you think I'm overestimating with the 50%? Now I'm questioning.
I don't think so. I think
I'm
you've
taking-
watched quite a few of them.
If I take just one shelf right here, I've seen almost every single thing on it. So then, conservatively, I think I could say at least 50%.
What are we here, about halfway through, give or take? This is shelf number
Yeah,
5
thereabouts.
out of 10.
The cool Herzog set.
Another bootleg, this Alfred Hitchcock Asian set.
Mm.
Let's see, where were we? Talking about who else asked questions. Oh, our friend Nicole asked how we go about upgrades. How do we make a decision as to whether we switch out for blue or just concentrate on incorporating new titles no matter the format?
I think you're mostly in charge of this, and does it sound correct to say that I think you take it on a case-by-case basis typically? We're not out to replace every single DVD with a Blu-ray.
No, not at all, because I started this, like I said, about 20 years ago, and that was before Blu-ray, basically, and so many of these, I would say 75 to 80% again, are standard definition DVDs. So I'm always more interested, and this goes back to our collection philosophy. I'm always much more interested in adding a title to the library so that if we ever need it, we have it, rather than spending an inordinate amount of time worrying about having the best possible version of a title. Is that kind of how you feel about it too? Would you rather expand the library, or do you want the newest, latest 4K, etc., etc.?
No, I would be okay with that cruddy version of Natty Gann that we got, because we got to watch it.
I don't know if I'd go that far with
Okay.
it. Pan and scan is a bridge too far, I think.
Okay. I tend to not think about the object itself. I tend to think about the film.
Yeah,
The story. The
exactly.
thing, not the casing of it. Because I also have a big digital collection too.
I did actually have a lot of upgrades that I was able to make, but that was because of kind of an odd circumstance. Is that your second most valuable right there?
Where's she right there?
In April of 2018, I was lucky enough to catch an estate sale where the guy had apparently been a pretty serious collector in cinephile. And so I bought, what was it? Something like 3,000 titles for $1,500. And out of that batch, I kept 100 Criterions that were either new to our collection or upgrades from DVD to Blu-ray. And then around 300 titles that I didn't already have from all over the world, some out of print and very rare. And then I sold off the rest. And so when I'm talking about the overall cost of the whole collection, there's a significant chunk of it that I not only paid nothing for, but I actually made money on, while I was able to add 400 titles, 25% of them being Criterion. So that was a real lucky strike there.
Are we about to come to that valuable title that you mentioned?
I think we are. That would be right down here. We have the original Mystery Science Theater 3000 Volume 10 that has the Godzilla vs. Megalon on it that they did not have the rights to. Thank you. And so that is about a on Amazon, I just looked a couple of days ago, was used starting at $250.
Wow.
So that's probably the most expensive. We have a couple that probably have just recently dropped in value a little bit. Gibson, you gotta stay that way.
Yeah. He is stinking it up. Good thing we don't have smell vision on this video.
The most recent one that probably dropped in value was Tokyo Olympiad, because that used to be long out of print and used to cost quite a fair penny. But Criterion just announced it is finally getting a Blu-ray solo upgrade. So I assume that DVD will not be holding its value as much anymore.
Mm.
There's a big one that we haven't taken on yet.
The Out.
Yeah, Out One, that Jacques Rivette. That is definitely quarantine time material, I would say.
You know, one that we did recently take on, the I, Claudius, or I did.
Mm-hmm.
That would also be good quarantine material, it seems like.
Just as long as you're not in there with Caligula. R.I.P. John Hurt. Okay, did we answer all those questions now?
I think so. One, though, that I thought of that I think some people have been chatting about in general is the question of, is it better in these times to have this physical collection? When we're talking about uncertainty and there could be difficulty with streaming things, is it something that you feel like it's a good investment?
I've always felt like it's a good investment, obviously, since I've been going at it this way for 20 years now. But
even just an emotional one or a psychological one, something to have and enjoy.
It gives me great comfort. This is, instead of having children, we have our DVD section to keep us company in our dotage. Hi, buddy. Yeah. Oh, look, there's our Michael Myers action figure lurking in the corner. Wood, you can't lick me while I'm trying to video. You're shaking my arm.
Oh, big boy.
There you go. You're gonna just sit by me.
Yeah.
Good boy. Okay, we're nearing the end. Just 2 more cases to go.
I remember when my mom was here for one visit, and she remarked, after we'd come back, she said, oh, there's a lot of wink wink kinds of titles in there. I think she was referring to the licorice experiment, maybe.
She has no idea how much
doesn't.
wink wink is in here. In fact, some just, like, for example, right there, Short Bus, that has actual
Oh, yeah.
non-simulated sexual activity in it. But, yeah, if she wanted to dig in here, The Sinful Dwarf, there's another one. Yeah, we collect all kinds of things. I'm glad you brought that up, because I really, you can see as you scan through here with us. Woody, are you guarding the door?
I think so.
That there's quite a variety of the type of material. I don't enjoy limiting myself to the types of things that we add to the collection. So there is a fair number of exploitation titles. We've got genre upon genre upon genre. It's not just classics. It's not just Criterion. It's not snobbish, I hope. I hope that you can see that our interests cover a wide variety of stuff here.
And one fun thing we mentioned during some other bonus episode, we were talking about those fun coincidences of titles being next to each other that you don't think about. And I found a new one, Spider Baby next to Spider Man.
My favorite one will be coming up in the next case.
Does Gibbs' butt have to move? There we go. Good job, Gibb.
He is going to have to move a little bit. Excuse me, buddy.
There you go. Hi. Yeah. Thanks, bud. Watch out, Widow.
Look at these nuts.
Amazing. Oh, thank you.
Okay, last one.
Oh, wow. Okay. Almost there.
And some of these you can see, for example, this one. I would say there's a 90% probably. I can tell you where I got it, the circumstances under which I got it, how much I paid for it. For instance, this copy of Trancers.
Is it a Canadian show?
That's Tim Thomerson. And you get the idea when you look at the condition of the thing. Where I got this was at that head shop / video store in Lawton when we went home to Oklahoma a while ago.
I totally remember.
Remember that? You and my
vaping
mother
as well now.
waiting outside of the car.
Yeah.
And I got a couple of Shaw Brothers movies and that Trancers collection.
I think there was actually a sign on the door that only allowed one person in at a time, so we all had to wait.
There was very definitely a sign on the door that specified you could not bring your phone in. So I'm not exactly sure what they were selling aside from really banged up cigarette smoke riddled DVDs.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, bud. Thank you.
Were there any other things that you were thinking about? And I guess, did you answer that question about physical media in these times? How do you feel about having this collection? Is it satisfying? Do you sometimes just come in here and look at what's here and feel better that anything you might want is at your fingertips?
You know, I don't know that I necessarily do that. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed and wonder, why am I watching something on TV when I could be watching one of these? But I tell you what makes me feel good is being able to say, Cole, I'm in this sort of mood. What should I watch? And you are able to come back with 5 choices for me. Things that I've never seen or something that I have. And fulfill all of these whims.
Okay, and we're at the end. And these are titles that have been just recently purchased or watched.
That we haven't refiled.
That we haven't been able to shelf
Come on,
yet.
Lord.
Okay, everybody's getting rowdy. So maybe we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Okay, boys. Any parting notes as we go here?
Thanks for watching. Thanks for being with us. Tell us what you want to see. Show us your pictures. Show us your shelves.
Exactly. And we will get into these. Say goodnight, Gibson.
Mwah.
In more detail. We'll start with this first shelf next time. And we'll just go through and pick a few favorites. And talk about how much we enjoy what's here. Until then, you all please be safe and take care of each other. And we'll see you next time.